Hello, everyone, and a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Nikki Hamblin. I'm an Olympian and a member of the education team at the International Testing Agency. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the March 2022 ITA Monthly Educational Webinar, in which we will talk about innovation in anti-doping. Before I introduce our topic fully and our panelists, please allow me to do some housekeeping. As a reminder, we're delivering this webinar in 5 languages. On your Zoom menu, you should see a button called Interpretation. By clicking on this icon, you can select a channel with your preferred language. I will be presenting this session in English, but you can also listen to the audio in Arabic, French, Russian, or Spanish. Some other housekeeping points. Please do use the chat function to tell us your name, where you are from, and your sport or role. And I can see some of you are doing that already. You can use the Q&A function to ask a question about anything innovation and anti-doping to our expert panelists, as we'll be leaving some time at the end of the session for these. Please note that it does go without saying that while we encourage debate, interaction, and questions, we do not tolerate any kind of aggressive behaviour or abuse or racist language. We trust you will join us in the spirit of fairness, respect, and integrity. I can see many of you are already using the chat, so let me give a few shout outs. I can see hello from Portugal, hello from Latvia, from the Latvian NATO, hello to Rafael from the University of Lausanne, hello from South Africa, from the NATO, and hello to Venezuela as well. Finally, please note that we record all our webinars so we can make them available on our website and YouTube channel for those who are not able to attend the live session. Today's webinar is part of our educational monthly series that are publicly available and designed to tackle key anti-doping topics and to raise clean sport awareness. A big thank you to those of you who are regulars, and a big welcome to anyone participating for the first time. We are very happy to have you with us here today. It is my pleasure to introduce our official presenting partner for the second year, Informed Sport. Their investment allows us to deliver the webinar program free of charge in 5 different languages. Informed Sport is a global certification program for supplements that batch test products for substances prohibited in sport. As supplement contamination continues to be one of the leading causes of inadvertent doping, we encourage athletes and athlete support personnel to check all products before use at sport.wetestyoutrust.com. The ITA is proud to be recognised by UNESCO as a leading international organisation for the delivery of anti-doping programs. And this educational webinar is delivered with the support of the UNESCO International Convention Against Doping in Sport. So, on to today's topic of innovation in anti-doping. I would like to invite our panelists to turn on their cameras and offer a huge welcome to them today. Our panelists are all anti-doping experts, and between them have a multitude of knowledge and experience in innovation, and are here to share this with us all today. Firstly, I would like to introduce the ITA's Head of Cycling Unit, Olivier Banuls. Olivier has 14 years of experience in the fight against doping at the international level. Olivier's anti-doping career began when he joined the anti-doping services of the UCI in 2007, before rising up the ranks of the Cycling Anti-Doping Foundation to become director in 2019. In 2021, the UCI delegated the management of its anti-doping program to the ITA, which is led by Olivier. Since 2020, Olivier has also been part of the World Anti-Doping Agency Strategic Testing Expert Advisory Group. Hi, Olivier.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Nikki, for the introduction.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us. Next, I would like to introduce Jakob Mørkeberg from Anti-Doping Denmark, where he is the Senior Science Manager. As you may ascertain from his job title, Jakob is responsible for the scientific work within the National Anti-Doping Organization, and additionally handles priority test groups and takes care of prioritization and control efforts in competitive sports. Jakob has published widely in the scientific field of anti-doping in collaboration with other researchers and anti-doping organizations. He is a renowned and respected speaker on anti-doping topics and was the first name that popped up on Google when I typed in innovation in anti-doping. Welcome, Jakob.
Hello, everyone.
Also joining us today from the USA, where it is very early in the morning, is Dominic Miser. Dominic was a high-level athlete himself and began his anti-doping career at the National Anti-Doping Agency of Germany. Over his 12 years at NADA Germany, Dominic became the Director of Education and Prevention, and during this time worked with many anti-doping organizations, including the World Anti-Doping Agency and Council of Europe. In 2019, Dominic joined the Sportradar team to gain new perspectives and develop new and innovative solutions to support the anti-doping community from a tech and data-driven angle. Welcome, Dominic.
Hi, Nikki. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you all with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you over the next hour. On to our topic today. If you are like I was about a month ago, I thought innovation was all about dried blood spot testing and similar types of initiatives. But thanks to our expert panelists, I had my eyes opened and now understand that yes, of course, dried blood spot testing is an innovation which has changed sport for the fairer, but innovation is also much wider and relevant in many areas of anti-doping. So on that note, what will we be covering today? Firstly, we will talk about what innovation is and why it is important. Then we will hear from Olivier, who will give us a short presentation on how innovation has driven the development of an anti-doping program. Obviously, given his role, it will be using the example of cycling. We will then share some ideas on how collaboration supports innovation. Following this, Jakob will present on innovative tools from across anti-doping departments that Anti-Doping Denmark have designed and implemented to protect and support the clean athlete. Then Dominic will speak on the opportunity of technology in anti-doping and how it can be used to prevent and detect doping in sport. Finally, we will also look to the future of innovation in anti-doping. As our regular webinar audience members will know, we like to include you as much as possible in our sessions. So for us today, in no more than 3 words, please use the chat function to write what comes to mind when you think of innovation in anti-doping. And perhaps while we are waiting for a few answers to come in, we'll give a few more shout outs and welcome to anyone who has just joined us. So I can see Cornelia is there from Hungary, and someone from the Indonesian Anti-Doping Organization. And hello from Germany. Hi from Anti-Doping Denmark. And so a couple of answers come into the chat box. So someone has said testing methods, and someone else has said technology, both of which we will cover today. Another technology, improvements. So now we will ask the question to our panelists, who to understand more about what innovation in anti-doping means to them and why it is vital for clean sport. So Olivia, what is innovation in anti-doping and why is it important?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nikki, for giving me the floor and asking me that question. Innovation is a response to the complex challenges faced by the anti-doping community. So all of us who have been involved in anti-doping for a while can testify that anti-doping has constantly evolved throughout the years, as sport in general has done, by the way. And as you rightly said, the thinking of dried blood sport or similar initiatives is indeed a shortcut, since innovation goes slightly beyond and impacts all layers of our activities. So I would say that's important for the anti-doping community to constantly move forward, not only for more effective program, which is of course crucial to ensure athletes compete on a level playing field, but also to improve the athletes' experience and ensure that athletes trust the system. Therefore, we as anti-doping specialists, we need to bring new ideas together, push the boundaries, and finally set up the environment that will support the development and implementation of such ideas. Furthermore, innovation also means being proactive and providing solutions that will upscale anti-doping programs, but also anticipate what the future will look like, and that is not easy. So last but not least, to answer your question, no innovation is possible without having the right persons at the right positions, without the necessary resources. So we all have to rely on each other to find and implement solutions that will change the game.
Thank you. And Jakob, do you have anything that you would like to add from your experience?
Yeah, I think that Olivier put it very nicely, but yeah, for me in general, it's about developing efficient solutions to to solve these tasks that we're facing. And maybe also one point that might be worth mentioning is related to the athlete's perception of the anti-doping work in general. I think the anti-doping work that the athletes meet will in some way define the trust in the system that we are putting down on them. So if we're too far behind, as an example, using carbon paper, doping control forms, outdated IT systems, or break down or not accessible, that might reflect also in their trust in the anti-doping system.
And Dominic, kindly coming to you, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of very good points already. I think innovation is about stepping back. It's about ideas. It's about the first step, like creating a different perspective, and this can come from each and everyone. And I think that's very important if we're talking about innovation. Yes, in a mid and long run, it's connected to resources. It's connected to human and financial resources. But the first step is just to create an idea with all the experience, which is in this webinar and outside there. And I think that's a very important first step for a good starting point when it comes to innovation.
Great. So thank you for the explanations of what innovation means in anti-doping and explaining why constant innovation is important for basically an effective anti-doping system and positive athlete experience, athlete trust, and then going on to explain some of the requirements, including ideas, environment, and resources. Now onto a specific example of the innovation driving development. Olivier will take us through anti-doping in cycling as an example. As mentioned in the introduction, Olivier began his cycling anti-doping career in 2007, so has been involved for 15 years. So I am certainly interested to hear about some milestones over this time. Over to you, Olivier.
Yeah, thank you again, Nikki. So I thought that it would be interesting to show how innovation drove the development of the cycling anti-doping program through my own experience after I joined the UCI anti-doping department back in 2007. So now it's started to be a long time ago now. When I started at the UCI, the creation of the Cycling Anti-Doping Foundation, that you may also recall as CADF, was in progress. The foundation, a non-profit organization under Swiss law with a unique financial model, was officially launched in 2008 and was composed of a foundation board, a funding committee, with the representatives of the key cycling stakeholders and one operational team. So the creation of this foundation was conditioned with the support of all cycling stakeholders and with the necessary financial support to reinforce the anti-doping program of the UCI, and above all to implement the athlete biological passport, the so-called APP program. So the foundation became officially independent from the UCI in 2013, with no UCI representative in this board, and can be considered as a pioneer in anti-doping because other organizations with a similar setup, such as the ITA today, were created afterwards. So that's the very first point I was thinking of. Then, of course, the same year, and I mentioned it, 2008 was key because of the implementation and the introduction of biological passports in 2008, even before the release of the first WADA ABP operating guidelines in 2009. So this program that was implemented together with the support of the Lausanne Accredited Laboratory and WADA represented a major shift in the fight against doping. The ABP program today is a common element of most of the anti-doping programs, but it was not at all in 2008. And now I think that looking back at 2008, when the creation of the CADF and the introduction of the ABP program, I'm not sure that we did measure at that time the extent to which the anti-doping landscape had changed. Moving a little bit further, in 2013, the Cycling Anti-Doping Program was also the first organization among the international federations, at least to be ISO 9001 certified. I mentioned earlier that the athletes' trust in the system was essential, and Jakob also mentioned it before. And this is one of the measures that we put in place to ensure the cycling stakeholders and the athletes that the anti-doping processes in place were duly respected. And following up on the dry blood spots that you mentioned, Nikki, in your introduction, I think it's interesting to mention that the UCI and CADF worked together in the implementation of the tramadol detection in 2019, since the substance was not added in the WADA prohibited list, so it's finally fell under the UCI medical rules. But it was important for us at that time to support the UCI and implemented this revolutionary type of collection and analysis, which provided us with an invaluable experience that can be utilized today. Innovating also means strengthening our knowledge of the sport, being in close contact with the actors of the sport, and the latter evolves quickly, and anti-doping needs to evolve as well quickly. So therefore, the organizational structure that we had in place at that time was adapted to respond to the evolution of the sport, and this is what we have tried to achieve over the years. Finally, the most recent and major change that happened in the cycling anti-doping program was the move to the ITA, and it took place officially on January 1st, 2021. The ADALAS investigation demonstrated that sport does not know any boundaries, and therefore the UCI and the ITA decided to join forces. So I can say that creating synergies by putting together all possible expertise on the same roof is extremely valuable for the good of the sport. And we look forward to this continuous collaboration between the two organizations and for improvements in its anti-doping program. So now at the ITA, and next slide. Yeah, thanks. So now at the ITA, I just cannot put here in this slide all the innovations that were brought to the anti-doping program in cycling following the move to the ITA. So I just decided to put a few ones that are more testing and IT related, and I think that's still very relevant for our activities. The ITA developed and implemented a centralized anti-doping system that is called PASS, that many of you probably know already. So it means protection of athletes and post system. So it resulted in immediate improvement of inter-department collaboration and better monitoring across all IT activities. Just to give you an example, so when you conduct an ABP test, then the results are evaluated by the Athlete Passport Management Unit, so the APMU, and which makes recommendation following that test. Such recommendation is recorded into the system and goes through the Intelligence and Investigation Department. Then it goes through the Scientific Department, which provide extra layer of information to the information provided by the APMU, and then hands into the testing team, which will treat the information. So the aim of this is providing the overall process as much effectiveness as possible, and also being as smart as possible. So as I said, inter-department communication for better effectiveness. So moreover, following up on the PASS system, so external ITA partners, NADOs, private sample collection providers also benefit from the system, since information can be shared through the system among those. The other application that was launched last year is the ITA Paperless System called Compass, collection management for the protection of athletes and sport systems. So all information related to doping control missions are accessible to the doping control officers via this platform, Compass being directly connected to PASS. And this is also a significant advance from paper forms because we don't have to rely anymore on paper, of course, but also because all this information is then centralized into PASS once the doping control is completed. There is something that the sample collection personnel can benefit from, but also the athletes, because it's much easier to work with. So using those systems also has a direct impact on the effectiveness of testing. So for example, we could observe the real benefit of using a centralized system during the Olympic Games, where urgent testing requests recorded into PASS could be immediately executed on the field by the sample collection personnel. And as you know, in some specific cases, the timing of a doping control is really crucial. Finally, I would just like to mention the Idco training program, one of the very important projects developed and implemented at the ITA, and that offer the athletes the guarantee that the tests are conducted consistently according to all applicable regulations and best practices, no matter where the DCO comes from. So as of today, we have around 850 DCOs who have been IDCO certified, and that's absolutely great.
Thank you, Olivier, for taking us through some of the innovations which have supported clean cycling. I just want to mention a few more answers that came through in the chat about some what is innovation and what does it mean. We had change, we had evolution, faster results, communication, detection methods, education, and I hope that we will cover some of those in the rest of our time with you today. While we are on examples of innovation and the ITA, I would like to show an additional example. In collaboration with Swiss drone specialist Rigitech and the anti-doping laboratory Qatar, piloted a project to assess the feasibility of drone deliveries in anti-doping. We will now watch a short video on this project. I would like to pick up on the importance of collaboration and innovation. As we've just seen an example of a successful and innovative collaboration between 3 organizations on the drone project. So we'll now invite Jakob and Dominic to talk about collaboration on a few different levels. Dominic, firstly, perhaps you could talk about collaboration between anti-doping organizations and tech organizations and how this can support innovation.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. I mean, look, I think collaboration is one of the most essential pieces in innovation, but generally in anti-doping. And that's what I experienced in the past years over and over again, that collaboration has a huge power to push things forward. And collaboration means it's about sharing perspectives. Each and every one of us has different scenarios he or she is working in. We have different experiences, different knowledge, and I think this is a very important first step. And then it's about listening and learning. From a technology perspective, and this is the kind of the experience I have and the shift I made is coming from an anti-doping organization and shift to a technology company like Sportradar. It's about learning and being open for new developments and new opportunities. And I think what I learned when I joined Sportradar is that there is so much we can use from a technology perspective. We can transfer to anti-doping. We can learn from a technology sector, from the sports sector, from different markets, and transport it for the good of sports and for the further development of anti-doping. Tech companies, they have an infrastructure, technology infrastructure. They have the knowledge in this specific field, but it's about bringing both sides together. And especially with these kind of very specific and unique challenges anti-doping is facing, I think it's even more important to talk to each other and to understand both perspectives, both sides. And as always, I think it's a joint approach. We can only improve and push the boundaries together. So I think that's what I understand, what I see in this field of collaboration, and how important it is.
Thank you. And moving on to Jakob, perhaps you could briefly talk about the importance of collaboration from the NADO perspective. So, for example, NADO to NADO, or between NADOs and academic institutions, and also the importance of including the athlete.
Yeah, sure. So first, with regards to the NADO to NADO, with the outset is that we're bound by the same rules and we have more or less faced the same challenges. So, of course, sharing ideas and costs between organizations to me is kind of a no-brainer to get the most out of our limited resources. An example of this in our organization was I think it was almost 10 years ago, we developed a Nordic APMU together with the other Nordic NADOs. When it comes to the collaboration with the academic institutions and universities, I think we should be better in taking advantage of the fact that anti-doping is actually kind of a hot topic. And from our experience, it's actually not very difficult to get academia on board if you reach out and have some good specific projects. So there are many different areas of the anti-doping work that overlap with research areas at the universities. So the collaboration with academia can bring in specific knowledge and expertise that is not available in most ADOs, I think. And we have hosted quite a few master and bachelor students over the years. And pretty much all they need is a computer, a seat, and then some decent coffee. And so the students we've hosted have provided high quality work for almost no cost. And when it comes to the athletes, I think we need to involve them early in the process when we develop new tools, but also get their feedback when we have implemented the new systems or tools. When you work with anti-doping all day, I think you tend to take a lot of the anti-doping stuff for granted. But for the athletes, anti-doping is still hopefully only a minor part of their everyday life. So surely getting their feedback is quite important since they're the ones that we're working for, so to speak. So for example, when we first tried the DBS collections and we developed our anti-doping app, which I'll get into later, we also engaged athletes to get their feedback and also support personnel to have their opinion on that.
Thank you both for sharing a few examples there. As mentioned by Jakob, anti-doping is something very much done for the athlete. And so as a system, protecting and supporting the athlete should always be at the centre. Jakob will now present on some of the tools Anti-Doping Denmark have designed and implemented to achieve this.
Sure, thanks a lot. So in this short presentation, I'll first provide some general thoughts and then present some specific examples of innovation projects that we have completed here in Denmark. So this first graph is slightly modified from a presentation I attended at a previous USADA science symposium a few years back, where there was a speaker with a background in criminology, said that he used this to divide a population into 3 groups and argued that this could probably also be applied to an athlete population. So the first group is what he called the conformist. This is the green, or this is actually blue or purple part of the graph. And this is approximately 50% of the population, he argued. This is the group of athletes that never dope, no matter what. For this group, I think education is key for them to avoid inadvertent doping through, for example, medication or dietary supplements. The red part represents the so-called deterrents. These are the athletes that do a kind of a cost-benefit analysis and decide, based on the reward versus the cost, whether it is worth doping. In this group, we as anti-doping organization can actually impact their decision through either testing or education. And then finally, we have the gray group, and these are the real dopers. These people, they will dope no matter what you do, no matter how much you test them, how much education you provide them. In Denmark, we have approximately, if we trust a survey we did some years ago, we have approximately 4% of real dopers in Denmark. So I think with this, we need to be innovative in not only the way we collect samples and analyze them. I think we have a lot of focus on that, but also in the way we educate athletes and provide them with the right tools to be able to function as athletes in the anti-doping landscape, because this is actually a quite large proportion of the athletes. And when it comes to finding those 4% in Denmark, maybe 10% or 2% in other countries, we should focus on data-driven, intelligence-based testing approaches. Next slide, please. I just put this on as a funny comment from one of my colleagues when we talked about this webinar. And what he said was the only people in the world under 40 years of age who know what carbon papers are athletes that have been subject to doping control. And this is probably not far from the truth. So I think to gain trust from the athletes, we also should be up to date with the tools that we're using. Next slide, please. So we use a paperless system, and one of the projects we have done was to do a dedicated module within the paperless system where the doping control officer can specifically report intel-related information. So after filling out the doping control report, he can fill out this information on the iPad, and this is how it looks like. Here you can see at the left our person of interest. You can see down there it's a guy called Olivier Banuls. And so in order for our DCOs to correctly gather this information, we also did some education for them and also for them to be able to get in a good dialogue with the athlete. Next slide, please. So we use that data together with a lot of other data that we receive, for example, ABP data, whereabouts data, data from the doping control form to develop these individual risk assessments on our RTP athletes. And here we have this model that comes up with a risk score for the athlete, and it kind of allocates a number of tests for this specific athlete and when it is more appropriate to test the athlete. during the year. So on this graph, this is actually on the x-axis is the 365 days, and you can see the different risk scores popping up, and we can allocate tests on these specific time points. Next slide, please. So within the testing area, I also think that that we, to a larger degree, can start to differentiate between athletes and their sports, and maybe allocate cheaper but maybe less sensitive methods, like, for example, the DBS, to a certain group of athletes, where our data has shown that those athletes are less likely to dope. For other high-risk athletes, certainly we need the full menu of samples and analysis, and there's currently various on new collection and analysis methods, such as oral fluids, exhaled breaths, hair samples, and so on. And hopefully we can use these different tools in the near future. Next slide, please. And even virtual testing has been trialed during the pandemic, and I know that there are organizations right now also having some projects going on. I think this has great potential, as long as we can, solve the practical aspects and we can think it well through. Next slide, please. We recently also conducted a few other projects. In Denmark, Anti-Doping Denmark has the status of being a public authority, and therefore we are allowed to exchange data because we have collaboration agreements with, for example, the police and customs and other public institutions. So under these agreements, we are allowed to receive information on, for example, people that import doping substances, and we can cross-reference that with list of active athletes and potentially sanction them only based on the import of doping substances. So from the information from the police, we have also done some kind of heat mapping up to the right of the prevalence of doping crime in Denmark, which we can use to kind of target different geographical areas. This is maybe more relevant in our fitness area, our fitness program, where we also go out and collect samples in the fitness centers, so we can get an idea of where the doping crime is most prevalent. Next slide, please. And for the conformists and determinables, we have developed some different tools for the athletes and the support personnel that should make their lives as easy as possible. This example, we have developed a medicine app which contains all the medication that is registered in Denmark. And here you can check the status of the medication, but you can also, it has a feature where you can add medication to you have this favorite list. And this means that you'll actually get a push message. You'll get notified if there's changes to the status of that specific medication. So if, for example, if you're asthmatic and you take a certain asthma medication and you have added that medication to your favorite list, you'll get notified if, for example, the allowed administration dosage changes or something like that. And you can also use it during the doping control if you're not really certain on the name of the medication or something like that, and you have put it into your favorite list. You can take up the app and explain to the DCO the name of the medication that you're taking and when you have put it in, maybe when you start taking it. And next slide, please. And then finally, we just launched a new e-learning tool. We have some implemented in this one, some quite, I think, entertaining cartoons, which hopefully will make the anti-doping education more digestible also for the young athletes. So that was all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakob. As a former athlete, I certainly appreciate this athlete-centered approach. Just to give a few more shout outs from the chat, because I see we do have a few anti-doping organizations with us today. So hello to Abdul from Kuwait, Richard from USADA, and some others, Alan from Mauritius, and Bashir from Somalia. And also just a quick reminder, please do write any questions that you have for our panelists in the Q&A box so they don't get lost in the chat. We will now come back to Dominic to present on how technology has a vital role in innovation and to provide a few examples of how tech can detect and prevent doping.
Perfect, thank you, Nikki. Yeah, I would like to take you a little bit with me into like the perspective I created in the last 3 years, and just give you a brief example of how I see the combination of technology and anti-doping and how we can benefit from each other. It's not a one-way street. It's like we're sharing ideas and we can create really amazing things. And why do I think that? It's pretty simple. If you look a little bit further and see what happened in sport in the past couple of years, what happened in sport in the last 2 years during the pandemic, what happened in the past 10 years, and compare it. It's amazing what technology can achieve and what you can do with technology. And I think parts of these learnings and of these learnings within the sport industry, but also beyond the sport industry, can be transferred into the anti-doping community, into the anti-doping life for the benefit of athletes and to make athlete experiences in testing, but also other areas better and enhance these kind of experiences. And that's something we can address with technology to raise the operational efficiency. We can feed strategic testing models and others other parts, and that's how we can help and how we can improve the system constantly. What we did in the beginning, it was like stepping back. It's analyzing, okay, what are the gaps in the system? How can technology help? And I brought you a couple of examples, what we developed, but also what ideas we have and what ideas we will bring to the table from one perspective, from our end, to see how we can benefit anti-doping and the anti-doping system. If you see, for example, the intelligence and investigation field and how data and how technology can drive this approach, it developed massively in the past couple of years. It was really pushed, and I think now it's time to use technology, to use tools to make intelligence and investigation more efficient. And the other end, it's about like creating new opportunities in terms of testing. Jakob already mentioned the remote testing piece, and I think that's an ideal way, in combination with dry blood spot, in combination with other testing methods, to make testing more efficient, more cost-effective, but also most importantly, more athlete-friendly. Next slide, please. When I'm talking about innovation, when I'm talking about technology, I'm thinking about like artificial intelligence, machine learning. How can we tackle corruption and fraud with these kind of perspectives? Within Sportradar, we have a wider unit, the integrity unit, which is not only taking care of anti-doping, also on the other areas of the integrity field, like match fixing and others. So I think technology can help you, and we can learn what we already from what we already implemented. I'm thinking about computer vision, kind of one kind of artificial intelligence to automate data collection, to automate the collection of performance data, use performance data to feed risk assessment models, for example. And if you could look back into the past couple of years, tech resilience is by using the latest public cloud infrastructures, making data more scalable, more elastic, and faster. I think that's one of the benefits we can definitely use and transport also into anti-doping. Next slide, please. And yeah, I just want to give you a couple of examples of what we did in the past and what we worked on quite heavily in the past 3 years, and take you a little bit with me on my journey within Sportradar. And I think all of us reflecting the past 2 years and the pandemic, and what happened in the field, exploring new ways of testing. One major topic was and is remote testing, and how we can transfer the physical testing experience to a digital level by keeping security and making structures more cost efficient. So what we did at Sportradar, we developed a remote testing system which is based on blockchain technology, enhanced encryption, multi-factor authentication, just to mention 3 of our security criteria, to introduce it to the anti-doping community and to see how this technology can help and push a little bit forward to implement a new way of testing. Cost efficiency is one of the major advantages. It's fast, it's flexible, it's more athlete friendly, and we don't see it as one or the other. It's a complement to existing systems, which makes you and your job more flexible to test athletes really anywhere and any time. Currently, we are working on a pilot project with NADA Germany, and I think that it's a massive thank you from our end to NADA Germany to move forward and to try this and to test this, and also with the athletes who are participating in the pilot project. I think it's great. We are receiving great feedback, I think that's one of the collaboration pieces to work together to get access to athletes, but also a big thank you to NADA Germany and the team working on a daily basis on the testing and giving us feedback to learn more and to adapt our systems. I think that's very important. It's a great example how innovation can be pushed forward. Next slide, please. Another one is performance data, and sports data can feed intelligence investigation efforts, strategic testing models. That's why I believe strongly that performance data are an essential and key component in anti-doping and to make testing more efficient. One of the challenges we have is how to collect performance data in an efficient way, in a fast way, that we can use these data to analyze and then to develop algorithms and to push this area forward. And we are working with new method, new technology, and on the right-hand side you see just a fraction and a picture of the computer vision model. We are working with these kind of technology to collect performance data and to generate data. And per game, we are collecting thousands of data points per game, and I think this information can be used and transferred then into the needs of anti-doping. And the question here is like, how can we use it? Like it's like we can provide the technology, but now it's about the collaboration to see, okay, how can we use it? How can we use it in an efficient way? And how can we strengthen then the anti-doping programs, I&I efforts, strategic testing models, education. I think it reflects into every single area. And the last one is, and this is a little bit coming from more from my heart, it's education. I think technology can support education, can help education. And I think most importantly, it's creating like kind of a data hub, like consolidated data from all the different great tools everyone is using, and to bring these information together in one system. Then it's about connecting athletes, support personnel within education to really drive education, use participation models, make them participate, and not like make a huge group of people participate and drive education projects. And that empowers athletes. That gives them this gives them the opportunity to really shape education programs and drive organizations' decision making. And last but not least, it's about the monitoring, which is part of the international standard as well. But with the monitoring, shift the focus towards the learning outcomes. It's one thing is about the delivering of the information, but it's more important, like what can athletes memorize over time, and what did they really learn? And I think data technology can help. It's one piece in a puzzle, but it can help to, and support you in your efforts within the anti-doping organizations. And then it's about the data interpretation. It's about using algorithms and to make education more efficient, more effective for the different target groups. And I think that was it from my side as a snapshot.
Thank you, Dominic. As we've heard from our three experts, there are many examples of innovation in anti-doping. As we do come towards the end of our session today, I would like to consider the future and where innovation is heading. So Olivia, perhaps in 60 seconds, it could be over to you to talk about what's next in innovation for the ITA Cycling Unit.
Thank you, Nikki. Yes, yeah, indeed. So, so I won't go through some ideas because there are many of them, and Jakob and Dominic mentioned a few of them already. I mentioned a few already as well. So I think increased knowledge of the sport, effective and smart anti-doping programs, strong INI, technology educations, all of those are key. But I just wanted to point out here some future innovations or improvement that could be brought into the system. The first one would be about science. I think that we all fully rely on science and WADA accredited labs, their capacity to detect prohibited substances and methods, either new or not. That's a key point, and I think these three tells us that athletes have been using substances or methods that cannot be detected yet. So I think that's a very key point in order to add an extra layer of effectiveness in our program. I think that the other one is data analysis, and Dominic mentioned a few points here, and I think that we are sitting on a very large amount of data on performance side, whereabouts, analytical results, anti-doping rule violations, ABP data, use of medications that can be retrieved now thanks to all these electronic doping control forms quite easily. So we need to make the best of all this data to be able to react quickly, and also to be proactive in the way we are conducting our program. So WADA is currently working on different artificial intelligence projects, and that shows that it's a really important topic. And I think that will bring in the future some clear added value. And the last one is about the new revenue streams. I think that there is some development to be made here. I think the money invested in the sport is massive, and part of it, even a very small part, could be invested in anti-doping, and there is some innovation to be brought in that respect in order to increase resources implemented in anti-doping and to be able to develop innovative projects.
Thank you. And Jakob, I know you also have some ideas on the future direction of innovation.
No, I mean, I like the drone project and I like the virtual testing also. Coming from testing, I think that there could be a potential in the virtual testing. So, you know, for example, we have a lot of athletes who have been tested for years and years, all negative tests, straight ABP profiles, no information about any potential doping, stuff like that. If we can find a solution that is, you know, less costly, lower resources, human resources involved also, to a lower price, I think maybe the virtual testing could be part of the future. I think we have still to come up with some good ideas about, you know, what to do with the shipping of the sample. What samples can the athlete themselves collect, stuff like that. But I think it could be a very, very nice tool sometimes to use the virtual testing. And, you know, sometimes we can send out the DCOs also to have the personal contact and, you know, collect all the samples we need for the full menu, but, you know, just be able to differentiate more around how we are doing the testing. I think that's something that we should focus on.
Thank you. And Dominic, I think perhaps an important closing point is that in our roles as different people and different organizations, we have quite a wide range of ability, resource, and capacity to implement different initiatives. So in this respect, what would you like to say about the future of innovation?
I mean, there are lots of very good points raised by Jakob and Olivier. And I would take it very simple. I think it's about you. It's about not you, Nikki. It's about each and everyone listening to the webinar, listening to what is innovation. You drive innovation, each and everyone, and it doesn't matter which role, in which capacity you're working. within anti-doping. I think we all have unique perspectives, and that's what's very, very important. The important piece is to step back and to have a look onto innovation. How can I innovate within my space? And I think that's very important. It's like when I like a little bit reflect on my time at NADA, it's like I felt like I sat in a small room with one door, and Nikki, I explained this to you, and I think it raises a good picture. It's like, and you only focus on this door, and this is like everything what you are bombarded with every single day: rules, regulations, testing, and all of this. And sometimes, and this goes, I think, in the complete structure. Sometimes it's very important to step back, to look where you are, and then to create ideas and to see how we can push the needle. And I think that's what is very, very important. And then, I mean, you heard, like, I believe technology has a massive impact and can have a massive impact, and we are just scratching on it a little bit. There is so much more, and I would like to just motivate everyone to be open, having an innovation mindset. I think that's very important. Create your organization with an innovative mindset. And I think these are very important points to have a very bright future when it comes to innovation in anti-doping. And I'm super excited. My team is super excited to push forward, to give our perspective and to collaborate and to see like what we can do in this field. And yeah, think outside the box. I think that's very, very important.
Thank you all. So that wraps up our panelist discussion. If you would like to learn more about the topic, we've linked some resources to the presentation for your future reading or viewing. I saw that we did have one question in the chat box, and I think this was to you, Jakob. So it was talking about the proportions on the pie chart, and it was, are these figures across elite athlete populations or at what level, and are they considered consistent throughout the spectrum from amateur through to international?
So the figures I presented, the 4%, that was a survey that was conducted by a research group on national level athletes. So we had around 4,000 athletes were invited, and we had a pretty good response rate. I think it was almost half of the athletes that responded. It was back in 2016, just after the Rio Olympics. But we are actually doing it again now to see whether those numbers have changed. We don't have any good numbers on, lower level athletes, or whether there were differences within the athlete group, but that would be interesting, surely.
Thank you. If you still have any questions or anything wasn't answered today, you can always reach us at education@ita.sport. This wraps up today's webinar. A big thank you to our panelists, Olivier, Jakob, and Dominic. And of course, a big thank you to our audience for your attention and participation. We hope that you found this session valuable. As a reminder, after the webinar ends, you'll receive a link to our survey along with the presentation slides. We ask you to please take a few minutes to fill this out. And finally, if you would like to receive updates from the ITA, including information about our future webinars, please sign up using the link you will find on the slide. Thank you all once again, and I wish everyone a great rest of their day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.